Welcome to this episode of Adam Answers. This time around, I'm going to answer a question from Winlin, who posted a question on Facebook. And the question is, I have clients who say, I don't know, to the best hopes question. I tried many different ways to ask it and still the same response. It has come to a point where I've run out of ways to ask it. Would I then ask what the issue is and then try to twist it into a best hopes question? Winlin, the nuts and bolts of your question, I would kind of boil down to this really simple answer, and I would say no, do not ask about what the issue is. Because if you do that, you do a couple of things. One, you ask the client to enter into the frame of mind where they have to consider the problem. And we have said lots of times that the problem actually has nothing to do with their desired outcome. So if you ask them what the issue is, you're asking them to go in a direction that actually isn't going to be that helpful to you. The second thing I would say is you're actually making your job harder, because now if they start answering what the problem is, you then have to convert that problem, like you said in your question, do I twist that into a best hopes question? And that twisting is actually an extra step. It requires more effort. It requires a bigger effort from you. And what that's going to do is it's going to make you have to work harder, and you're going to be back in the same predicament that you're in right now. So if you don't do that, it begs the question, so then what do you do? And what I would say is you're going to want to begin listening really, really carefully. Because regularly what clients will do is they're not just going to say, I don't know, with those three words over and over. They're not just going to say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. They're going to nuance it, or they're going to change it slightly. And they're going to say things like, I don't know, I've never thought about it before. Or I don't know, I didn't want to be here anyway. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick up on those other things that they tack on to the I don't know. Because those other things are going to give you ways to rephrase your question. You can say, if they say, I don't know, I've never thought about that before, then you can say, if you took just a second to think about it now, and you came up with just the right answer for what do you really want to get out of this process, that's a different question. If they say, I don't know, I didn't want to come here anyway, then you can easily take that, I didn't want to come here anyway, and you can say, well, since you did come, or given the fact that you decided to come even though you didn't want to, if we made this time really worthwhile for you, if we made it worth your coming, what do you think you would want to talk about that would make the most difference to you? So the first thing I would say is catch the nuances that they add on to the I don't know, because that's going to help you to kind of nuance this each time. The second piece of advice that I would give you when they say, I don't know, is to slow down. Don't panic, right? Because then I think oftentimes what clinicians feel is like, now I'm responsible to do something. I'm responsible to fix this. I'm responsible to make this feel less uncomfortable. And one of the things that I would say is you have to remember that your job is not to change the feeling in the room. Your job is not to make them feel more comfortable. That's not to make them do anything. Your job is simply to ask questions that are in line with this process. So I would say just slow down for a second, take a breath, and say, okay, I can't move on until I get an answer to this desired outcome question. When you take that breath, then you can kind of come back and say, okay, if we talked about something that was helpful to you, if we did something here that made you feel like this was a worthwhile process, what do you think we would do? What do you think we would talk about? What do you want to be different as a result of this? So just come back and ask that question again. If someone gets frustrated because you keep asking this question, I think, again, that's a moment where people can panic a bit and say, like, I don't want them to be frustrated. I don't want to be in harm's way. And so, again, we kind of panic for a moment. And what I would say is your energy, your attention has shifted to you. And now you're feeling uncomfortable and you're thinking, how do I get out of this? And so that response of, do I just say, what's your problem? What brought you here? That will alleviate your own discomfort but it doesn't actually help you do your job. So I would say keep your focus on the client. Look at their body language, listen to their intonation, listen to their voice. Typically, clients want a couple of things. They want to feel heard, and they want to feel valued. Keep asking, what's your best hopes? In a way that conveys, I hear you, this is hard, this is a struggle, you don't want to be here. But also convey you are valued. And you say, I really, really want the very best for you. If you and I worked in a way that resulted in you getting the best out of this, what difference would that make to you? Or what would you like to have happen here? So I would say, work to shift the energy and attention away from you and back to them, because that's where it should be. So don't try to twist it. Just stick with your job. Just ask those questions, but ask the questions in a way that say, I hear you and I value you. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have other questions as a response to this, please let me know. I'm happy to answer those questions too. But in the meantime, just make sure you stick to your job and get a desired outcome before you move on to anything else.